and gentlemen, on behalf of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome you all for the 37th Annual General Meeting. May I request all of you to occupy your seats. Very good morning to all of you. May I request Mr. H.V. Harish to occupy our distinguished guests to the dais, please. Mr. Yamamoto, Counselor and Counsel of Embassy of Japan. Mr. Ian Felton, Deputy High Commissioner, British Deputy High Commission. Mr. V.P. Baliga, Chairman and Managing Director, KSIIDC, Government of Karnataka. May I also request Mr. Anush Sharma, our Vice President, Mr. Chandramouli, our Senior Vice President, to occupy the chairs, please. With your permission, we will start the proceedings of this morning. This is the first session. We are having a seminar on creating engines for Karnataka industrial growth. It will be focusing on Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai industrial corridor and national investment and manufacturing zones. In the evening, we have the open session at 6 o'clock at the same venue. We have our business session in the evening at 4:30 in the same hotel. So everything is happening in the same venue. So members are hereby requested to be present for all the three occasions and make this event a grand success. May I now request our President, Mr. H.V. Harish, to do the welcome address, please. Please give him a big hand.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Baligar, Mr. Yamamoto-san, Mr. Felton, Jayanta, my colleagues, Chandramouli, Anuj, Sampath, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us this morning to discuss how we can create engines for Karnataka's industrial growth, which clearly is something that needs to be done and is an issue currently with the current both rate of growth as well as the share of growth of industry in the state. That's why we thought it's an important enough topic to understand what is being planned on this corridor, which is a key initiative of both the state government and the central government with support from the Japanese and the UK government, and hence this seminar. I would like to thank Mr. Baligar for agreeing to lead this session and as MD, Chairman and MD of KSIIDC, he is tasked with getting this project fructified. And sir, we would be keen to understand where we are on this project, what are the steps, how we as industry can support you, and when we would see this project into fruition. We are talking both of the corridor as well as the NIMZs which are coming up. Clearly, India needs to scale up manufacturing. We have taken a sort of leap from agriculture economy to a services economy without transiting the interim stage of manufacturing. Unfortunately, while that might keep the GDP up, it doesn't generate the kind of jobs that are required for an economy transitioning from agriculture. And while there is a lot of talk about demographic dividend, our huge population is something that needs a lot of jobs, and those jobs are only going to come from manufacturing, and we need to work on manufacturing. This term demographic dividend is something that has been coined, and a lot of us use it as a matter of pride. And I keep thinking that the last time we heard of family planning was 1977. After the elections were lost, I think the department is probably shut down. At that time, our population was probably in the region of 50 crores. Today, we probably are proud to say we are going to be 140 crores in a few years. And just think, if our population instead of 120, which is today, was 70 or 80, what is the per capita GDP that we would have had? What kind of resources we would need? We keep talking about the need to preserve our environment, but how do we preserve environment at the same time feed, clothe, provide power, and every other necessity to such a huge population? So we need to balance these two, because otherwise we will have social unrest at our hands. A quick word on the sponsors. Bangalore Chamber of Industries and Commerce is the premier industries body focused on large and medium industry in the state of Karnataka. We have about 650 members representing the who's who of industry. As you can see, we have almost 42 sponsors, which shows the kind of membership that we have and support that we have in the industry in Karnataka. We had submitted an economic agenda to the current government when it was formed, and one of the key things we said was create these corridors and push actively. And today we'll hear what is happening. It is quite common knowledge. Any person who's in a village or a city or anywhere will tell you that corridors and access are very important. Anybody in this state or this country will tell you that if there's a good road coming in front of my house or my farm or my piece of land, the prices will shoot up. And it is obvious. And why it is so, because it improves connectivity, it helps trade, it helps industry. So critical that these corridors are created, and we need to create appropriate industrial townships. Gone are the days where we could create industrial estates around cities. We have to create complete townships to help support movement of industry in a organized manner to wherever we think it can be set up. The state also needs to think of, looking at how we can attract investment in a bigger way, and this corridor is sure to attract those investments again, we would like to hear what those steps are. I'd like to thank both the Japanese government and the UK government for supporting these two corridors, and Yamamoto-san and Mr. Felton for joining us today to tell us what their governments are going to do to help build these corridors. My colleague Jayanta will now take us through a presentation on the Chennai-Bangalore-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. For some reason, it is called Chennai-Bangalore Corridor or Bangalore-Mumbai Corridor. What I understand is the first one is Chennai-Bangalore-Chitradurga Corridor, and the second one is probably Chitradurga-Mumbai Corridor. But so that the first one has a equal distance in both both the states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. These are very important initiatives, and it's important we understand. And I'd like to assure everyone here that the Chamber has been propagating this and will be a big votary and supporter of all these initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harish. May I now introduce to you Mr. Jayanta Chatterjee. He is the Executive Vice President and Regional Head, Southeast ICRA Limited. He is the Senior Group Vice President. He is responsible for credit rating or debt instruments with primary focus on corporate sector and infrastructure projects. He holds a bachelor's degree in technology, specializing in mechanical engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and a postgraduate diploma in management, specializing in finance marketing from Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata. Mr. Chatterjee has an aggregate work experience of over 20 years, which he has been associated with the company for more than 11 years. Prior to joining to ICRA, he worked as Deputy Manager at Tata Steel. Thank you very much, Mr. Chatterjee, for acceding to a request to present the industry perspectives on this very, very important subject. Over to Jayanta, please.
Thank you, Sampath, for the introduction. Good morning to all of you, panelists, as well as people who have come today morning for hearing a very important inputs that we look forward to from the state government as well as from British and Japanese representatives here regarding how we are going to take this forward in terms of the Chennai, Bangalore, and as Harish mentioned, going up to Mumbai. So growth has been an issue, a challenge for all of us over the last maybe 3-4 years. We have been seeing a lot of discussion about how growth rates have slipped from a fairly high level to even below 5% currently, and that's something which is a huge concern because as you all know, growth leads to employment and growth leads to wealth creation, and those have been serious concerns in the last few years. The new government, they are grappling with how to get back on the growth path. So the government is grappling with how to get back on the growth path, and we are all anxiously waiting to see the economy come back on track. And that is something which is top on the agenda for all the industrial participants. And us who evaluate the industry from outside, I think at this stage, when an economy of the size of India has come to this sub 5% growth level, something is really needed to spur the economy back into a higher growth path. And that will not obviously be a very quick improvement on the growth path, but I think steady steps and measured steps need to be taken in that direction. In that context, the economic corridor or the industrial corridor, as you call it, is something which is a very, very important measure which the government needs to look at. And we'll just take you through some of the advantages, some of the international experience that we have on that, and also how things have worked out on the Delhi-Mumbai corridor. Now, as is very obvious to all of you, I think there are significant advantages in terms of having an economic corridor. It is a magnet for investment. It attracts investment. That is very, very critical, and that is very important for us to get back on the growth path. Very importantly, it is not a single region on which it focuses, but on several contiguous regions which are connected with each other. As you all know, Chennai has a hub of auto activity, Bangalore has services sector which is going well, and Mumbai has its own advantages in terms of manufacturing. So if one were to connect these, there are significant advantages that one can realize, and that is what the industrial corridor or the economic corridor attempts to do. We often hear about efficient transportation and road network being critical for economic corridor development. That's, of course, no doubt the starting point. But as the network grows, so does the economic activity around that, and that is what has happened internationally also. Competitiveness improves because it unlocks the development potential of the region. It helps faster movement of goods within the region, efficient delivery. These are advantages which come from it. And all in all, it leads to a situation where the companies do not have to hold on to inventory for a longer time. It improves your working capital management, improves movement of goods, and these are the things which will ultimately lead to faster growth for the entire region. So this is something that an economic corridor benefits the entire region in a very, very positive way. But very important for all the corridors that have come up internationally is not to look only at the positive side of the event, because there are also flip side. As you will see, there are social, environmental, and other adverse impacts of connectivity. So as the planners plan for growth of industrial corridor, I think it is very important to keep in mind as to how to control these adverse factors so that it's a very balanced growth which comes out of these corridors. So that's an important background on which to keep in mind. Coming to some international experience that we have had, if you see economic corridors that we are planning in India, those are within the country. But internationally, there have been actually 6 countries which have been connected on a corridor, which help the growth of all these 6 countries. And these thoughts have been going on for the last more than 20 years. So internationally, even in Southeast Asia, the Greater Mekong sub-region on which this growth has happened, that is actually a total of 6 countries who initially started by networking on the road front, but that led to very significant growth in economic activity across the whole region, and that helped all these countries to go on a faster growth track, as we'll see in the next slide. Regional trade actually improved 40%, which is very significant. So if it can happen across a network of so many countries, I'm very sure that if we can manage it on a scale which is southern of the Deccan Plateau, I think there is significant gains that can be looked at from the economic corridor that we are planning here. So this is just one example of the way in which international experience has grown. Transit times have significantly reduced because of the improved connectivity, and overall trade and service costs have come down quite a lot, and that has helped the entire economy to grow. So what we would like to draw from this, obviously it's very, very well known that physical infrastructure is a very strong trigger for growth. And that is something which, although we know it very well, I think it has happened very late. The Golden Quadrilateral actually came quite late, and it's still in a WIP stage. But I think if we look at the industrial corridor from the connectivity point of view and take it to a level where it actually helps in growth of industries, that would be a really strong point for the southern region. If you look at drivers for growth, technically, significant growth initiatives have come from development of infrastructure. If you look at the comparison between China and India in the table below, we are between 10 to maybe 15 times lower. In fact, China is 15 times higher in terms of infrastructure spends across majority of the infrastructure like railways, ports, highways, airports. These are the things on which China has made significant advantages, and that has helped them to go to a particular growth level which has really been significantly higher than what we have seen. Now, if we take that as a trigger, I think we have to move step by step, and this economic corridor that we are talking about is one step in that direction of providing the right infrastructure for growth of the southern region. So we should look at it from the point of view of infrastructure creation for triggering growth. Coming to the Delhi-Mumbai infrastructure corridor, that is actually something which is connecting 6 states. And as you can see, the majority states which benefit out of this are Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. But other states which are connected, UP and others, they are also benefiting quite significantly. And as you can see from the chart at the bottom, there is a gain in terms of employment, which is one of the most important things facing the economy. As Harish also mentioned, job creation is something which has suffered quite a lot in the last few years. And if we move on this path of industrial development through economic corridor, part of that problem can be addressed because the job creation and the employment creation is getting addressed in this DMIC corridor. So that is something which is a significant benefit for the growing population. As Harish also mentioned, the population has been growing at a pace which is quite high, and to that extent, job creation has not happened. So government can actually address both these issues through the economic corridor initiative. These are some more details of the DMIC, the way in which it has benefited. 9 mega industrial zones, high-speed freight line, 3 ports, 6 airports, and 6-lane intersection-free expressway is what is proposed to be created as we go along. And DMIC in its own way is spurring development along this corridor. And we expect that the similar way, the scale, if it could be achieved in South, a large part of the growth could be addressed. Now, funds for the project are coming from Indian government as well as from the Japanese loans and investment by Japanese firms through Japanese depository receipts issued by Indian companies. So Japan has played a critical part in this, and we expect that similar initiative would come also for the southern corridor. Looking at the statistics, about 45% of the country's registered factories catering to employment of almost 3.36 million jobs are located in the DMIC states. So it's a very big industrial corridor, and this improved connectivity across the corridor has significantly helped benefit the growth of jobs as well as growth of industry along this region. 52% of the registered factories in Maharashtra and Gujarat indicates the kind of industrialization which is there in these states. And in terms of gross industrial output and exports, DMIC states alone are contributing 56% of the country's industrial output and 62% of exports. So as you can see, not only job creation, industrial growth, but even exports growth, I think significant improvement is coming through the creation of this. And it's a very long project. It takes its own time to come up. And unless we start early, I think the gains would not be there. So coming to the Chennai-Bangalore corridor, which is what we are talking about today, as you can see, there are a significant number of multinational companies already operating out of Bangalore. We have Volvo, we have Toyota, Bosch, L&T Komatsu, which is now, of course, Komatsu is on its own, Infosys, Wipro on the services side. And if you look at Chennai, we have got Ford, Hyundai, Nissan, Renault, Caterpillar. So large number of companies, both in the manufacturing side as well as services side. And a connect between these two would typically help in the growth of further ancillary units, which will support the major units which are already there in this, and even further investment could come to both these states. And if we follow the corridor through up to Mumbai, then there is going to be significant advantage in terms of acting as a magnet for getting the investments into the state. More importantly, I think any amount of manufacturing activity also leads to creation of services. So services, not only in terms of IT services, on which we have made significant progress, but also very importantly research, where we significantly lag in terms of having a good infrastructure for research services. I think what would happen is if this corridor were to come, the manufacturing sector would create its own magnet for setting up a lot of R&D facilities, and that's where high-end job creation and knowledge services would come in. So we would look forward to that kind of activity coming along the corridor. So this is something which is well-known drivers for industrial development, and it is not only the hard infrastructure like roads, railways, electricity, but even the soft infrastructure